Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. It's Maddie Azar with SpectrumArtCreations, and today we are going to be looking at Color Bloom sprays by Prima. This is not a new product, so to speak, on the market, but they were new to me. And huge shout out to Lisa Jameson for sharing these with us and recommending that we try them out. And we now have the original Color Blooms as well as the Color Blooms 2. There are a couple of differences, including the trigger on them is a little bit different. There's also, of course, the fact that the originals come wet and the Color Blooms 2 come in a dry powder format where you add your own liquid, your own water in order to mix them. Also, the packaging is slightly different. You see on the table, the original Color Blooms come in a hard plastic case, and you have to kind of assemble, not really, just remove the protective packaging and then insert your trigger and straw. I guess we can call that assembling. Where the Color Blooms 2, like I said, come in a dry format, and they come pre-assembled for you. They both contain these great little clips that prevent you from firing or misfiring or accidentally pushing down on your trigger. To use, you just need to pull those off, but I will be saving mine as well as my caps because they can come in really handy if you ever want to travel with your sprays. Now, to get these ready for use, very simple. For the Color Blooms 1, as we mentioned, you remove the protective packaging, you insert your straw and trigger, and you remove the stopper. That's it. For the Color Blooms 2, the instructions say to add tap water. I will give you a word of caution. If you have hard water or if you're not sure, I would highly recommend that you use bottled water or maybe filtered water. That's just so that you do not end up clogging your nozzle. We're going to give these a good shake, especially the first time with the Color Blooms 2, because remember, they're going to go from powder format to wet, and you're going to see that you're going to have a lot of that pigment settled on the bottom of the bottle. There is a ball bearing inside the bottles. The mixing ball is really great at helping you break up all of those pigments and colors and get your bottles ready for use. Now, you want to shake side to side and never up and down to prevent clogging up that straw. We're going to fill it with water, and we're going to fill right above the label itself. So there's a little line right above that label. That's where we're going to be filling. That's exactly the way that the other ones come as far as the level of liquid that's in them. The first time that you use these, it is going to take a little bit of time to get them shook, and that's because as opposed to the Color Blooms originals, these are not pre-mixed, so they have not been sitting, obviously in water, and they are still clinging to the bottom. So you will need to just take your time and shake them. After that first initial time, once it's all mixed in, it does get a lot easier. Now, if you are like me and you have hands that hurt from a lot of shaking, I just have a lot of hand problems myself. If you are like me, I love using my little mixer here, and I wanted to time and show you how long it was going to take to mix. So this just really speeds up the process. The first time I tried it for 30 seconds just to see how far we had gotten, if that was going to be sufficient, and I realized that not quite. We still had some on the bottom, so then I did an additional 30 seconds, and conclusion was 1 minute or about is going to be perfect when you're using a mixer. And I did try it a few different times just to make sure that the conclusion was correct, and it was. Let's talk about some of the features. So my favorite feature, of course, is going to be the ergonomic trigger. Amazing trigger, fantastic. So different than most sprayers out there. Great on the hands. Once again, I always look for any kind of feature that's going to help my hands, and these triggers do work wonderfully. We already talked about the mixing ball. The bottles are 2 ounces. And let's talk about the coverage, because again, the coverage is also very different, probably due to the trigger itself. Typical color spray bottles, such as Tim Holtz, usually yield a smaller spray area, and sometimes they tend to even spray kind of blotchy. These, on the other hand, yield a fine spray that covers a much larger area, and the trigger also has the added feature of spraying droplets, and we'll look at those in just a few seconds once we start creating our swatches. And now we are ready to play. The first demo we're going to do is going to see just how wide that coverage is compared to other sprayers. As I mentioned, a couple of trigger pulls is going to get you a lot of coverage. Basically, we're almost going to cover an entire cardstock page. Then we're going to tap on that trigger and create those droplet effects that I was telling you about. How fun is that? So large coverage, as you can see, easy just to be able to do an entire page with just a few pumps. The next test we're going to do is going to be to spray our 3 greens next to each other, just to see how different are they. And again, we're still working on plain cardstock. First, we sprayed emerald, followed by golden oregano, and then brimstone wings. And I wanted to compare and see how different are the 3 greens, and they are very different. So that was good, because I knew that I needed to have all 3. Sometimes colors can get pretty close to each other, and therefore, you know, we might not need all those colors, but in this case, oh yes, we do. And look how absolutely beautiful those turned out. And I love the variations on the colors depending on how saturated the pigment was in specific areas. The next demo we're going to do is going to be our color swatches. So I am going to be writing the names really quick on just some watercolor paper this time, and I am going to swatch out all of my colors. Now I want to add that this is a non-sponsored, honest review. These are blooms that I bought for myself. They were actually my Mother's Day / birthday gift to myself. I just needed to have all of the colors to try them out. Also, I wanted to share with you that these have no fixative in them. So if you prefer, you can seal these when you are done. Although I will tell you that once they dried overnight, they were pretty permanent. Now, if you're going to, I don't know, maybe use them on fabric or something like that, you probably want to use a fixative. But for the purpose of paper crafting, they're great. And they're archival safe as well. They are non-toxic, water-based products, okay? So they have no odor, which is great. Because if you're having little ones play, or if you suffer from allergies, then the fact that they're odor-free and non-toxic is a great feature. So then that got me thinking, what if we wanted to use these to color some trims or laces, or maybe some sari silk? So for the next demo, we're going to work on fabric. We're going to spray some swatches on fabric. I wanted to see also just how well they played next to each other. So you'll notice that I am purposely, very carelessly, using warms and cools together, which sometimes tend to make mud, right? Like brown and reds. I'm sorry, blues and reds. And so I wanted to see what would happen. Would they bleed? Would they blend? Would they create mud? And I was pleasantly surprised just how well they get along, even with colors being sprayed on top of each other, because eventually started purposely overspraying and overlapping colors, and yet they still blended but held their true color, which I thought was great. Now, that got me thinking, okay, so they can handle that. What else can they handle? How far can I push this? And that is coming up next. Okay, so now we know they work great on materials like fabric. So what do we do after we've got these swatches? We decide to purposely, intentionally try to make some mud. Oh yes, Here we go. We are going to just scrunch up that fabric and we are just going to spray at whim. We are going to grunge this up and purposely try to make a mess. Oh, how fun, right? That is always fun. Now, it could go completely wrong because it can, right? When we're experimenting with things. But then again, we can also learn some cool stuff. So I am going to bring in all kinds of different colors, not even thinking, and just hitting it everywhere. And we're going to see what the results are. And you guys tell me, what do you guys think? Now, while I'm trying to purposely make mud, I will share that the finish is a little bit different on the fabric. Remember, the sprays are mica based. You see a lot more of that shimmer and mica on paper than you do on the fabric, or at least on this fabric. They do come in 20 different colors, well, over 20 different colors now, and in 3 different finishes: vintage metal, sparkling pastels, and sultry shimmer. As you can see, I have purposely used my trigger to create those yummy splatter effects as well as the fine mist. So it's great to be able to do splatters without having to bring out any special tools, just from the same bottle. So now we have 2 totally different looks. We have our full-on sprays with a little bit of overlapping on fabric, and then we have our grungified mess where we try to make mud but instead achieve some super cool awesomeness. So then that got me thinking even more. Well, they're water-based. What if we try to add some water? And I'm going to share with you those results. So let's grab the last bit of our fabric down here, and we're going to just use our water sprayer. We're going to then be adding color blooms and adding water, more water in between each of the colors, trying to make them purposely run. Plus, we are going to also be kind of squishing on that fabric just to make sure that it all blends. Look at the results at the end and tell me what you think. It is so neat to know that you can still see all of the colors, but now we have a watercolor effect on fabric, and you can take it as far as you'd like. So as you can see here, this looks great. It's almost like faded acid wash jeans for those of us who lived through the 80s. But you can continue to add more colors and just continue to blend with water and squish it all together. It will still retain some of that original color, but look, it will blend and look like watercolors. How neat. And so I think the versatility is phenomenal because we can go from a grunge look to a watercolor look to a very vibrant look. So same bottles can achieve completely different results. Which one's your favorite? And now for the final demo. Now, of course, you can spray these through your stencils, you can add them to embossing folders, you can do a whole bunch of things that we normally do with our sprayers, our color sprayers. There are plenty of videos out there on YouTube using the color blooms through stencils, so I didn't want to repeat those techniques because you guys can go watch those, right? However, if there's anything that you'd like for me to demo or to try out, do let me know. I love to hear your suggestions and your comments in general. So please do leave a comment down below. But I am going to be using a brush just to swatch these out. They look very different actually between the spray, the fabric, and the water brush, or just a brush period. Very different. So it's great to do your swatches at least spray format and also paintbrush. Very easy to blend them, whether you're using a brush or just spraying them directly, as you've seen. Also, the fact that their spray offers a medium coverage, so it's more of a tinted translucent finish than a full coverage. You're not going to get full coverage unless you overspray or spray and spray and spray and spray and spray, right? Then you can keep layering until you get a much deeper color. But you can also remove some of the color with paper towel, or you can push it around with a brush if you want to. So you can get quite a bit of different finishes from just one bottle. Now, as I'm swatching these, are there any colors that are your favorites? If they are, you might want to jump on those. And I'll tell you why. I'm unsure, but there's some colors that are no longer available. I saw some videos that had colors that I couldn't find. We purchased and put in our online store all of the colors that are currently available from Prima. But some of them say limited edition, so I don't know if they retire them, most likely. My advice to you is if you see something you like, don't hesitate. As I mentioned, they are available in our online store, and we certainly do hope that you guys check us out. Now, here is my final parting thought on these. If all of this was not enough that we've covered, the best part is yet to come, because you can actually refill and reactivate the colors up to 3 times. So once your bottle gets about 2/3 of the way down, right, and you only have 1/3, you want to refill it back up to that line with water. You can do this up to 3 times and still get the same great color. That's how pigmented they are. But even after that, you can actually continue to add water. Of course, the color will get lighter, and it'll almost become like a shimmer spray at that point in time, because you're still going to have some micas and a little bit of pigment in there. But again, a totally different finish. More importantly than that, if you ask me, is that when all of it is spent, and it's going to take you a long time to go through maybe 4 bottles of this, right? But when all of it is spent, you are going to have a fantastic bottle, which I am going to transfer some of my other sprays into, because I absolutely love the trigger on these bottles, and the fact that I find that they don't clog as often. God bless you. That was my doggy sneezing, sorry. So let's compare the colors now that everything is all swatched out. We're going to go through all of the colors individually, and you guys can tell me which are your favorites. So these are all of the colors. How lovely are they? Whether you have sprayed them or swatched them with a brush or sprayed them on fabric, the magic stone is very interesting. It has like a variegated green and dark colors, almost like a mossy, and the precious stone is very, very different. It almost has like a blue mica to it. It shows a little bit better here when I show it to you with the brush strokes, but all of the colors are absolutely stunning. So now that you've seen them, do you have a favorite? Do you own these? Let us know. If you have them in your stash and you work with them, what are some tips and tricks that you'd like to use? What are some of your favorite things to spray them on? And of course, we hope that you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, won't you please give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and be sure to subscribe, as well as to share in your crafty groups and with your friends. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you back soon for more demos, more tutorials, more live sales, and more fun. Again, don't forget to check out our online stores where we have these products and hundreds more available for all of your crafting and art supply needs. Also, make sure you join us here every week for our live YouTube sales, where we demo products and just have a great old time with fun giveaways and amazing products. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day. We'll see you back in the studio soon.